like to welcome everybody back to another episode of Gamewreckers and Slobberknockers. And today we have with us Coach Jerald Sharp from St. Louis. Coach, welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
Hey, why don't you tell the viewers and listeners a little bit more about yourself?
Okay. I have been coaching for, I want to say about 20 years now. Primarily on the defensive side. I coached at 2 charter schools and helped build those programs, as well as an ROTC school. So it's always been about personnel, always been about finding players. We had my best year as a coach was probably with Cleveland Naval Junior ROTC. And we had outstanding group of kids, and that's kind of what you want to build with just when you get that outstanding group. I'm at Confluence Preparatory Academy now. We've had some up years, we've had some down years. It's just in St. Louis, it's a very big competitive thing about keeping your kids. A lot of kids are transient, and they will move to another program in a heartbeat. So you can develop for 2 years, and they take their senior year and go away.
Okay.
I coach football, basketball, and track there, so I'm year-round as a coach, just to keep the names the same and keep kids interactive.
Well, Coach, I will tell you, I tried the three sport thing, and you have all of my respect. I did it for 1 year, and I always had taken the winter off. And I 1 year I said they needed an assistant wrestling coach. So I told him I'd help out with wrestling, and I did track, football, wrestling, track, football. I was spent. Now, I got lucky and got out of it because my son, who was a pretty good wrestler, was coming in as a freshman, and I said, look, I'm going to coach that kid in football. I'm going to coach that kid in track. I want a season where I don't coach him, and I can just be a dad. So you have my utmost respect for coaching year-round sports, Coach.
I will say this. I took 2 years off because my son was a junior and senior, and I wanted 2 years to just enjoy my son's games. And so I did not coach. He was a high-level football, even playing college at Lindenwood Belleville.
Okay.
That's a small school here, but he wanted to play so bad, and I didn't want to have that thing where your dad do what I say. And so I backed off for 2 years, and those are pleasant 2 years, but I itched to get back in there.
Right. Well, hey, I tell you this. The one reason I did it, I said, because I get to be a dad when he wrestles, and I can be that crazy dad in the stands going nuts when he's doing really well. And I don't regret giving up wrestling at all. Now that he's in college playing football at Georgetown College in Kentucky, I enjoy those Saturday afternoons as much as anything because I get to be his dad. Yes. And you're right. It's not, you're the coach's kid. He ain't the coach's kid here. He's a player. So, Coach, I totally get it.
I said, look, I'm not making no decisions on my son. And the quarterback came and said, look, I don't care how you feel. He needs to play line right now because I'm not dying.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. I get it. I understand. Hey, you talked about 2 things that interest me there. We have charter schools here too in Ohio, but I don't think we have any charter schools that are really super big enough to have sports. Like, what's the enrollment at the charter schools?
Our charter school is one of the bigger ones. They have about 400. I'm taking a guess on that one. It's about 400. As a coach, I've been blessed that kids will come with me.
Right.
And so it's families that I've had at one school, and they found out I'm at Confluence, and they brought their kids over. Like I had one quarterback at Cleveland, and when the father, who's a good friend of mine, saw I was at Confluence, he brought his other 2 kids over there. So we keep a decent amount. The biggest thing in St. Louis is, like I said, it's transient. So just like they're coming for me, they might leave for somebody else.
Right.
So numbers are the hardest thing. We have a very good basketball program. We had a very good football program. We lost a lot of numbers. We graduated a year of 23 seniors.
Ooh, I don't care where you're at. That's going to hurt. 23 seniors?
23 seniors graduated. Most of them were college eligible, college ready, and that hurt.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, that'll hurt anywhere. I don't care where you're at. Hey, the other one is you guys have a high school that was like built directly for the ROTC?
We St. Louis has a school that was directly ROTC. It is
Wow.
Naval Junior ROTC. They're actually trying to close it this year. But
What?
yeah, the school district wants to put them on the list because they have a very low enrollment.
Oh,
But
goodness gracious.
I felt like my son went to the ROTC school, and the interactions he got there, the education he got there was priceless. I didn't want him to go anywhere. I'm originally from East St. Louis.
Okay, I know East St. Louis.
Yeah, so it's like he lived in East St. Louis. He said, I don't want to go to East St. Louis because you lose a lot of kids because you have such outstanding athletes that are there already.
Right.
So he sat on the bench behind Terry Beckner, who ended up playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, well,
I don't want to sit in high school behind him. I'm coming to your school.
Right. Hey, I get it.
And so
totally understand. Well, that's cool that they have that program, but it's kind of sad to see they're trying to close it.
Yeah, that we won the last state titles. We turned it into a very dominant track program. Several athletes still have state records, and
Nice.
it's kind of sad that they're trying to take that away.
Right. Nice. All right, Coach. So who do you think would be your biggest influence on you in coaching? Like, who has kind of helped you become the coach that you are?
I've been lucky. I started actually coaching in the United States Marine Corps.
Okay.
And so I've had coaches that were Marines that reached out to me when I said when I wanted to be a coach, I wanted to research it. I wanted to do it a certain way. And so Mr. Fitzgerald Hill, he was the head coach at San Jose State for a while. He was also a Marine gunnery sergeant doing the first Gulf incursion.
Okay.
And so I reached out to him. He was really helpful in terms of what do I need to pay attention to, what I need to learn, what I need to decide I want to do. The next guy was Marion Starling. He's currently the defense coordinator out in Kokia. He also, through most of those East St. Louis title wins, he was the defensive coordinator for them. And so he was really big friend of the family. He really helped me. He helped me get my first job when I moved back to St. Louis. I bounced ideas off of him. And honestly, the head coaches I worked with prior to, I worked with some really good head coaches that kind of gave me carte blanche because they knew I'm an academic about it. They said, hey, if something works, if you find out where it worked at, you can show me, put it in. I'm not gonna mess you on defense. That freedom up for offense. And so I've been blessed as a coach to having really good coaching influences. One was Lewis Finley. He was my head coach at Cleveland. He played at Missouri Western when they were having their championship runs. I believe it was D2. So he brought a lot of that to the school. He wanted to run offense. I wanted to run defense. We only had 2 coaches on the staff. And we basically, and I did defense and I did JV.
Okay.
And so basically, that way we keep everything the same going through it. I ran the offense and defense on JV.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy. You know, we have guys that complain here like, well, we only have 10 coaches for our staff, and you guys are getting it done out there with 2 coaches. I mean, another tip of the hat to you guys, Coach. You guys are making it work.
Most staffs in the inner city here have maybe 4 coaches. Maybe have 2 on varsity, 2 that's JV, and they have to make it work all the way around. When you get to the bigger schools in the area, they might have it, the CBCs, East St. Louis's, because they'll have people that, even if they can't afford another coach, they'll have people that just, look, I'm going to be an assistant coach to a volunteer coach.
Okay.
But most of the schools I've worked at, we had to do ground. We came from the ground to come up.
Right.
So the first school I coached at here, they didn't pay coaches at all. We all were volunteer trying to make it, and we built up a dominant program. And then we paid it. Everybody wanted to be a coach then.
Huh.
So little dicey here, but
right.
It's worth it. But you want to be respected for what you have worked with all your life.
Absolutely. And you can show like, hey, we can do with what we have, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to make it better for the kids. And in all honesty, that's all that really matters in the end is what are we doing for the kids? So Coach, I think you're heading in the right direction. That's for sure. So it sounds to me like with your population, you have had a lot of experience in adapting your personnel for your defense. Do you want to talk a little bit about things that you do with that?
Okay. What I primarily have run is the 4-2-5, and that's just because some places, when I plan on defense that year, I look at what we have on offense. At some of the smaller schools, we might not have a lot of quality linemen. When I say quality linemen, those road graders that's going to sit there and make a true hole, we might not have a lot of those. So when I'm setting up my defense, I'm looking at ways to maximize the talent that we have. Mm-hmm. When I ran it at Cleveland, ROTC, we had a lot of track runners. We didn't have a lot of linemen. Like I said, my son came in and he was a lineman, and they were so happy. Never saw him play. They were just happy he walked in the door. And so what I did was I had to change it. I didn't have 4 down linemen. I had 2 linemen I used interiorly, and I tried to use speed on the outside at end, speed on the outside at strong safety and at rover, and I tried to maximize how I had them moving. So I tried to make sure that it was an attacking scheme, and I tried to rely on big skill because we had a lot of wide receiver types that cannot catch.
Right.
So I said, fine, give them to me. Let me teach them how to be corners, and make sure that the quarterbacks only have a certain amount of time to throw, because we knew they can't cover all day. Now, right. As they got better, as they grasped the concepts and everything else, because I still was trying to make sure if we're going to teach it, if I'm going to teach it to my linebackers, I want them to have college level idea of what's going to happen.
Right.
So that way, when they go to college, they're learning it the right way. But I had to cut some corners because some of those guys are like I had one kid who is still the class 2 holder in the 100-meter dash. He is the record holder for the 100-meter dash, but he had no hips, so he couldn't cover.
Right. And
he had very poor hands and a ball IQ, so I couldn't put him at free safety and let him fly around or anything like that. I put him at rover, and I took all the guesswork out of it. He became a bullet. And in my schematic, I had to move him around, and so they're worried about what number he is because he's flying past ends and tackles and anybody trying to block on their edge, giving my actual football IQ guys enough time to sit there and make plays.
Right.
So I've had to do it that way. At Confluence, we went big with it. We played a lot of teams that had bigger linemen, bigger schools. So we had to adapt to it. So our safeties really became more linebackers. On the outside, like I said, we had that big 23-man senior class.
Right.
And so we did a lot more with big guys. Like I had a 6'7" defensive tackle in the middle. And so we could play around a little bit outside because he's taking up 2 gaps. And he was an athlete. So he ended up playing center for the basketball team as well. So I went from a 1-gap thought process to a 2-gap with him, and I funneled around him. So it's a lot about adapting to what you have. I've always been proud on having big corners and make sure that they were part of the run scheme. A lot of defense coordinators do not advocate for that. I have asked for 11 men contained.
Right.
I preach the box. If you keep everything in the box, you keep your 11 men contained, and everything can be copacetic, no matter how you're doing it. But it's just you got to change up how you're going to do it.
Well, Coach, I can tell you this: if you are doing a great job when you're talking about adapting what you have, what kids you have, and adjusting your scheme to help them. A lot of times you see these coaches who are good coaches, but they just keep trying to drive that square peg in a round hole because, like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to run this defense, and we're going to do it this way, and they don't have those kids. You know, I'd love to have, you know, the year we had a 6'2", 300-pound kid that could command a double team, and we could just sit in that defense. You know, the next year when he left, we didn't have that guy. And so we had to adapt what we were doing to use the kids that we had. So I think that's a tremendous job of taking advantage of what you have, and how in high school it changes, especially you were talking about how transient your population is.
Yes.
You don't know, like this year you're expecting that kid to come back and he doesn't, but you already have a plan kind of in place to adapt those things and to change those things.
Well, one thing I will say is what I try to do every year, even though I do believe I'm a 4-2-5 guy, I clinic constantly, because I will take schematics from other defenses. If I see something that I really like, the one big thing is we played, oh God, what was that sport team? But it was more of a very run-heavy concept team.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up the funny part is I ended up coaching with the head coach for that team. We played a school called Lift Life. That's the other charter school in the area. And they were very run heavy. And so I had to adapt it to go to a more of a 4-3 look.
Yep.
But still keeping the same principles, because you're not trying to reteach the entire defense. You're still trying to keep all these things, but how are you going to make the adaptations?
Right.
So that the years I had, actually, I had very productive linebackers. I will say that. Both of them had 1 year where both of them had over 100 tackles. So it was really scream and splatter. We were trying to make sure everything funneled back to those linebackers and let them finish it off. Because a lot of those other guys were not tacklers per se, but they were aggressive.
Right. Right. And that's exactly it. And I think this, I think you're doing a great job if you're scheming out on, clinicking out on other schemes, because you may find a team that's going to make you make an adjustment. And if you already kind of know what it is, I think if you look at all the 3-4 defenses in the NFL,
mm-hmm.
and you look at some of they're not strictly 3-4. You're going to see them in some 4-down fronts. Like they're going to play a 4-down front every once in a while. And they're going to stun, or they're going to stem their way to those 4-down fronts. And that's okay. And the same's true. You find those even front guys in the NFL, and they're not always 4-down guys. They, sometimes like all of a sudden it's a 3-down front. Like, hey, wait a minute, where'd that other guy go? Well, they subbed it out. And I think it's true. I think if you know what your techniques are, you mm-hmm. can adapt it much easier, and your kids will understand it much sooner if it's not a huge technique change.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this. If you're teaching technique, you can adapt. I feel like the one thing that needs to change is me. Some coaches believe that they have to learn their schematic their way. I kind of liken it to one of the defense coordinators I watch in the NFL is Todd Bowles.
Right.
When he was with Arizona, it was we're just sending them. We're sending them, and we're going to slant left and right. I want to keep the defensive line moving because they didn't have a great defensive line. But then when he got to the Jets and he had Sheldon Richardson and those guys in the trenches, he did a lot more reading with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's back at Tampa Bay, similar type thing what he had in New York. But he went back to the slanting aspect because of what he had. They have very aggressive people now, and he want to take over blocks. And so I always say that I'm always playing chess. I'm going to teach you how to play. I'm going to teach you technique. I'm going to teach you where it's going. And then when I start calling, I'm calling off what I've learned. I don't depend on my players to watch film and master from film. That's my job.
Right. That's exactly right. You got to get the information to your kids, especially at the high school level, because the kids don't have the time. They don't have, sometimes they just can't figure it out.
But if you're doing it right, and especially if you're able to stay at the same place, you'll start seeing the difference. It's like being in a classroom. You'll start seeing where, okay, the wheels click.
Mm-hmm.
I had my same linebackers for 4 years.
Right.
And that first couple of years, they were like, I'm not sure. And by the junior year, my main linebacker was also quarterback, was like, okay, I get it. So if we're in a bad call, he literally can call us out of it. And I gave him that freedom because I'm saying, you're on the field. If you see something that is totally against what we're doing, we're slanting away and you see they move the tight end, best believe you better switch it because you know what I'm looking for.
Exactly. That's exactly. Having those kids helps you out a whole lot as a coach.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, is there any offense or any play on offense that really causes you problems? Like when you see it, you're like, man, we really got to work on this coming up.
Oh, honestly, it depends on where I was at.
Okay.
We had teams that at Confluence, we had problems with people that ran quasi air raid offense.
Right.
I am a type of person where I believe in the whole system. So if I see you running spread, I'm going to go into the book and I'm going to look up spread and everything else. Schematically, the problem comes with when they're running power air raid.
Mm-hmm.
That's become the new thing where you run all the power concepts in your run game.
Yep.
But you're still throwing air raid. So I have my safeties. I play my safeties as true safety. I don't play them as linebackers. So they're taking away pass, coming up a run. And so when they're going through the power schematic, the edges might get caught.
Right.
And I'm hoping that my D tackles are slanting correctly and doing the things they have to do, and my linebackers are reading. But that's the last line of defense. I preach 3 levels of contain. The ends have a level, the safeties and rovers have a level, and your corners have a level.
Mm-hmm.
And linebackers are cleaning up for everything. So if the linebackers get sucked in, the D line gets sucked in, and they're running everybody off because it's air raid, the defensive end has one shot. And so the teams I've had problems with were those, and those with outstanding athletes.
Right. You know, I always tell, I got asked that question one time, and I said, well, I said, if we got the same Jimmys and Joes, then, you know, there's a couple offenses I really hate defending. I said, but if my Jimmys are better than their Joes, I think we're going to be just fine. But if they got better Jimmys than we got Joes, it's going to be a long night if we can't scheme it up. So, I think, and that air raid, Coach, you're right. That air raid where they're mixing the power run game, it is a headache because you're putting your linebackers in a bind. Like they see the run fake coming, they see that guard pulling. Like what? Oh, I gotta get, and then they throw the ball right behind them. I totally understand that one,
especially with the advent of RPOs and adding it. So now the things you would teach them, the things I initially would teach them are gone because now I gotta have somebody talking to let them know the RPO is coming. And that means you got to have a quick read.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had those athletes that sort of focus in on their one job for the play. And now you're talking about second level stuff.
Coach, I get it. I totally understand because my guys get, you know, we're an odd front. We were an odd front defense. I don't know if we're going to say that. We just had a coaching change. But, you know, even when we were an even front guy, those RPOs put your guys in a bind, and you know they're picking on a kid, and you got to figure out try to figure out which way they're reading the RPO and all that stuff. So I totally understand. All right, Coach. So it's that time of the show. We're going to talk about Gamewreckers and Slobberknockers. So who's the best game wrecker? The guy that screwed up more offenses, game plans than most people thought. Who's the best game wrecker you've ever coached?
Oh God. The best game wrecker I ever coached was Montez Lattimore.
Okay.
He played for me. He actually played 3 different positions for me. I would move him to corner, safety, linebacker. He was a wide receiver. He would touch the ball and he would go.
Right.
He ended up playing 4 years at Central Missouri State and was an outstanding student athlete.
Okay. Good to hear.
Huh?
That's good to hear.
But he honestly, when he would touch it, it was dangerous. The next one would have been Dominic Ball.
Okay.
This kid was, the biggest problem he had was he was in constant competition. His main competition all 4 years of his career in every sport he played was Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay.
So Ezekiel Elliott played at John Burroughs. He's trying to run as many yards as he did there. Then he runs against him in hurdles every year.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Hey, I love hurdles. As an old track coach, my favorite, I love 2 races. I loved watching the hurdles, and I loved watching the 4x400. Oh, the 4x1, now you keep that. The 2 races I thought were the best were the 2 hurdle races and the 4x4.
I love the 4x4. I love the 4x1 just because we could actually dominate. Because he wasn't my fastest guy. I had two very dominant speedsters,
Right.
including the one guy I told you that it was from that had the state record that year.
Right.
But a dominant ball was a 5'8", 210-pound bowling ball, and he just he would keep his legs going. He dragged people, and he'd break out track speed, and he was going, and it was a beautiful thing to watch.
Wow, I bet.
And I've always sit there and said, if I could have combined the two schools I worked at,
you guys have been a powerhouse.
Because the school I'm at now, at Confluence, we had line. We had no skill guys like that.
Right.
Not like that. At Cleveland, we had skill guys and outstanding skill guys. We never had line. So my son came in, and I had to put him right at center. We need to anchor this somehow. Right. I had a gentleman named Sean Drake. He was a very aggressive kid, getting in trouble all the time, but he was a gifted student. And so as soon as I had to make it about gifted and use your gifts, he got in the weight room, added 30 pounds of muscle, and jumped on the line, and he was clearing stuff. Once we got it to be cleared, those backs were going. But we also ran into, like, in Missouri, there are dominant programs.
Right.
One of them, we were in class 1 that year. One of them his name is Valley Catholic. Valley Catholic was undefeated like 5 years in a row. You go to Valley Catholic, you play next to a graveyard. And they park the bus by the graveyard. So
man.
So you know what you're getting into.
Right. All right, Coach. So what's the biggest Slobberknocker hit you've ever seen?
We had another running back. Devontae Casey. And it was a big thing. It was a commercial that was out, and we used to laugh about the commercial. And he ran a dive. It was a simple dive. The safety came up and just collapsed him at the line of scrimmage. One shot, one kill, bam. And you felt like shockwaves. And we brought him to the sideline. And it's a commercial that was out talking about say, hey, who are you? I'm Dan. Who am I? You're the coach. Who's he? He's Batman. And I'm like, no. And he did the whole commercial.
Wow.
So, are you there? It's like, you're Batman, sit down. Coach, why can't I get up? Sit down. So we played the rest of the game without him. He sent him, he's like, come on, let me get up. Are you still Batman? No, sit down.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story, Coach. All right, so we're going to finish up here, Coach. It's been a blast having you on here, but I'm going to ask you the 5 bring in the house questions.
Okay.
Just need your initial response, and we'll go to the next question. All right.
Okay.
Nike or Under Armour?
Nike.
The most annoying NFL football fans?
Cowboys.
If you could sit down and have dinner with any NFL coach, living or past, who would you pick?
Bruce Arians.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, what's your favorite late night snack?
Pizza.
Okay, now here's the one I've been dying to know. What's the best barbecue place in St. Louis?
Oh, I am the wrong one to ask because, like I said, I go over to East St. Louis to get Sandy's.
Okay, so Sandy's. Hey, hold on a minute. I'm gonna write that one down. Sandy's in East St. Louis. All right, I'll write that one down. All right, hey, that's close enough. It's in the ballpark. Coach, this has been a blast. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to meet with me and do this and get your information out. I think some of the things you're doing are spot on and coaches need to hear. Make sure that you're making adjustments with your personnel so you get the best out of your kids. I want to say thanks. You know, I appreciate your help today.
No problem. Thanks. I just wanted to get that out and hope everybody has some good seasons coming up.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, Coach, good luck to you guys in the spring. I'll tell you what I'm going to do now is I got you guys. I got Confluence Prep Academy on my list of schools to look up in the spring and see how you're doing. Good luck to you guys. Stay healthy.
Hopefully that's the plan.
Right. I understand.
Yeah.
So, hey, I appreciate everybody turning in for another episode of Gamewreckers and Slobberknockers, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys.